peaceful? Was it, what was your experience that made you feel like, okay, I can be open? Was it from hearing other people, or did you hear other people whose situation was worse than yours? What made you feel at peace?
For me, the atmosphere was peaceful. For me, one thing I like about Wounded Women is that whatever's said inside the meetings, the groups is confidential. Also, what I enjoyed was no one judged me. No one said, "Oh, you were gay," or no one said, "Oh, you were molested." Everybody was receptive to me and what I went through, and everybody, not just one person, but every single person gave me feedback on how to deal with my situation. So for me, I felt like everybody was just welcoming and very receptive. So I felt like it was an accepting and a very peaceful, and it was a comfortable atmosphere for me. I felt like I finally had people that I can actually be honest with, that's not going to look down on me for the things that I've gone through in my life.
Okay,
So.
we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back and talk more about Wounded Women Healed. Thank you.
I want you to check out the Mercer County News on WZBN TV every Monday through Friday, starting at 7:30 p.m. Hi, I'm Tony Cornish Jr. from WZBN News. If you can't make it at 7:30, we repeat the program until 10:30 a.m. the next morning, so you never have to miss your local TV news. There's no better way to keep informed about what's happening all around Mercer County and the entire capital region. You can even see WIMG shows like In the Public Interest, and now WZBN is better than ever. We've converted to digital, and the signal is cleaner and crisper with better audio. And this is big. We're now on FiOS Channel 28 all over Mercer County. So for really local faces in the news, the town mayor, a talented student athlete, or an aspiring teacher, be sure to join me on WZBN TV and WZBN News. Your neighborhood, your news.
Welcome back. You are listening to WIMG AM 1300, WZBN 25 Mercer. And we are talking about a women's group called Wounded Women Healed. And we're here with Ramona and Linda, who are participating in this women's group. Before we left for break, you were discussing with us how the atmosphere was, and how it made you feel comfortable to be able to share your issues. And I want to ask you, Ramona, I want to ask you a question. And the question I want to ask is that, being that you were in church, I heard you say that you wore a mask, hiding from who you really are. And the question I want to ask is, why do you feel that we, especially women, try to run from what we're really dealing with? What is it that kept this little secret that you felt like you had to keep to yourself and not to allow anyone to know that part of you?
One of the reasons was because I didn't want to be viewed as weak. I had a rough childhood, and even as I got older, you hear people say you would never be anything. So I didn't want anyone to view my situation as me being weak. So I felt like I had to camouflage. I felt like in order for me to fit in order for me to continue to be strong, I saw my mask as me being strong, because no one saw a weakness in me. Right. I wouldn't cry around anyone. If I was struggling, I wouldn't let anyone know I was struggling. Mm-hmm. I had to have the latest things because I wanted everyone to think that I was okay. So it was hard for me because I did it for so long that it just became, to me, it was natural for me to wear a mask. And it wasn't until I got to Wounded Women Healed that I realized how many masks I was wearing and really how bad I was and how deceived I was in myself. I really thought I was happy, but I really wasn't, because it was a mask that I had. I had a mask to wear, to portray if I'm happy, or, portray that I'm upbeat and everything is okay. So it was really an eye-opener for me to really realize that I wasn't what I thought I was at that time.
And you, Linda, were there any shame you had or guilt that you had because of what you went through? Do you think shame or guilt kept you in a closet? You know, because you said you went to church as like Ramona, and you said that you also was wearing a mask. Did you feel as though being honest would make people stray away from you, you know, in society as well as in church?
I did definitely feel that, and I also felt for me, I had this. For me, I portrayed myself to be as this tough girl, this, you know, and so for people to see me break down and cry and actually hear the things that I've gone through, for me, I felt like that was me being weak too, and I felt like I was actually letting people in because I had a wall up because of what I went through. I felt I had trust issues. I had problems communicating to people. I had problems letting people in because I felt every person I let in would hurt me. You know, so for me, it was a lot of shame. It was a lot of guilt. You know, I definitely had trouble being honest. I definitely had trouble at points in time opening up. You know, but for me, I felt like I was in a prison, and I wanted to break free so bad. It was like, for me, it was crazy. For me, it was like going to church and you're praising God, but then coming home and crying at nighttime. It's kind of like saying, God, you really can't do this for me. You know, so when I went to Wounded Women Heal, it just taught me you had to be honest with yourself. You had to be honest with God. You know, so I got to the point where I had to tell God, please take this pain away from me and help me to overcome what I don't want to keep going through this. I'm 23 years old, and this happened when I was like 5, 6, 7 years old for a couple of years of my life, you know, and it's like I'm an adult now. I can't keep being angry. I can't keep crying over the same thing. I had points in time I just have to woman up and just face it and overcome it. You know, so for me that was, you know, my issues.
What would you advise leaders in church? Because I'm a pastor, and I'm finding out through Wounded Women Healed, through the women that I do meet that go to different ministries, that they don't feel comfortable to share with their own leaders or pastors really what they're going through. And a lot of times pastors have no idea the struggle that parishioners have. And what would you say to a pastor who may be listening, or leaders? What would you say to them, or to give them some kind of advice how to know when you have someone in the ministry who is struggling over issues? And I call them giants. I call them giants because it's what stops most men and women from moving forward. It's that giant after shouting, after dancing, after paying your tithes and your offering, you know, after saying you have the joy of the Lord, that you secretly, you go home and you cry, and you go and you get up and you repeat the same old cycle. And I have learned that we have learned to function out of dysfunction.